Hi, today we are in Berlin with IndieGoGo. Danae, who are you and what do you do?
Hi, I'm Danae. I'm one of the founders and a Chief Development Officer at IndieGoGo, and we're now the largest global open funding platform in the world.
Great. When did you start IndieGoGo and why did you start it?
I started thinking about it and working on an idea in 2001, quit finance to go start it in 2006, met my co-founders then, and we launched in January 2008.
Okay.
And the reason I started it was because I pretty much grew up my entire life around a problem. I had to witness a problem, actually became part of the problem, and that was the problem of access to capital, inefficient access to capital. So I watched my parents struggle for 30 years to grow their business because they never could access an outside loan. I went into finance and started working with filmmakers and theater producers on the side, was failing at helping them raise money, and realized that the finance was broken because what was happening is that ideas were only getting born if they were lucky enough to find a gatekeeper to roll the dice and bet on them, and that the way to fix finance was not rely on gatekeepers, but actually put the power back in the hands of the people to decide which ideas came to life by letting people fund the ideas that mattered to them. So I quit finance in 2006 and started IndieGoGo to do that.
Great. Danae, how is the current business model working for IndieGoGo?
Sure. So the way IndieGoGo works is that anybody anywhere in the world can create a campaign on our site. You click the Create button. You can be an entrepreneur raising money to start a business. You can be an artist raising money for your next album or film that you want to make. You can be an activist or a community citizen trying to raise money for a local charity or a local community effort. And all you need to do is literally create a campaign and get going and share it with your friends, family, and supporters and funders and customers, and empower them to help you fund. IndieGoGo adds a lot of amplification on top of that. So we integrate social media. We do a lot around helping elevate the exposure so you can actually raise the most money possible using our site than anywhere else. And what people do is people fund in exchange for what we call perks, which is like a token of thanks. So a great example is here in Germany, a campaign for the Pannono launched and raised $1.2 million. Wow. It was a new startup with a product where it's basically a ball that you throw in the air and it takes a 3D picture. It's very cool. Well, they used IndieGoGo as a way to get the startup funding so they could launch to the market. And we have a campaign like the Tinkerbots, which is a really cool robotic Lego set for kids, teaches kids about robotics. They had actually raised €1 million in venture funding, but then they still used IndieGoGo as a way to raise another $300,000 to really validate their market, refine their product market fit, really understand what their funders and customers wanted, so that when they did the full launch, they knew who their customers were where they were, what they were willing to pay, what features they wanted, all that stuff. So
and they adjusted their kind of pricing or business model during the campaign.
Well, what they did is they learned a lot about what people's willingness to pay was. So when, a lot of the old way of doing things is before you would launch a product, you'd have a focus group, which is you gather a bunch of strangers and you ask them, would you pay for this? And they might say yes, they might say no, but still it's hypothetical.
Yes.
What IndieGoGo says, well, if you pay for it, why don't you do it right now? Let's put your
money where their worth is.
Where their mouth is, yeah. And so it's a great indication of whether there is a market there or not. And so that's why we're seeing IndieGoGo's it's become a place not just to raise money if you can't access traditional capital like bank loans or venture investment or even government funding. But now IndieGoGo's become a place for that, as well as for ideas that maybe can access traditional funding but still want to use IndieGoGo as a platform to really prove that market and prove that product market fit, so that when they launch fully, they're as buttoned up and tight as possible.
Today, IndieGoGo is quite big. So from a user or entrepreneur perspective, it totally makes sense to use them because you have tons of millions of users on it who could potentially purchase perks with my company.
Fund perks.
Yeah, fund perks.
Yeah.
And
it's not a store. It's not a purchase.
Okay. But when you started in 2008. Why should an entrepreneur put his business on your company when you didn't have a lot of distribution?
That's a great question. I always like to say the hardest part about starting a marketplace business, which I consider us a marketplace business. We don't have buyers and sellers, but we have, funders and raisers. The hardest part about starting a marketplace business is starting. It's the chicken and the egg issue. And so in the early days, what we focused on was just proving that this was a way to raise money efficiently, maybe more efficiently than offline. When IndieGoGo started, the word crowdfunding didn't exist. We were the first platform. This concept was very novel, and there was a lot of skepticism. And so what we just did is we focused on campaigns first, and we did whatever it took to help them raise money. And in the process of helping them, we learned what the needs were, what the pain points were, and then we built products around that to help address those pain points and needs. So very early it became clear that the whole point of using IndieGoGo is to raise more money than you ever could alone. So we asked the question, well, yes, we're removing a pain point. So if someone wanted to raise money online, they could just put up a website, put up a PayPal link or something and raise that way. So in the early days, we removed that pain because we allowed them not to have to go through their own website and their own PayPal, etc. But then quickly that functionality became sophisticated, and so then the point of IndieGoGo became the ability to reach more people. And so with that, we were able to add functionality around social media integration. When people fund on IndieGoGo, they're automatically prompted to share it and post to Facebook and Twitter. We like to say that when IndieGoGo started, I think Twitter had just launched and Facebook was still college only, and YouTube was big, but MySpace was the big social network then. So anyways, it was still very early days, but we realized the whole point is amplification. IndieGoGo's reason for being is to help ideas amplify themselves. And so now we're the platform known as the platform that will help you raise the most money possible because we focus on this, and we're continuing to focus on this. We're still rolling out product features and enhancements to help with amplification.
What type of business idea run very well on IndieGoGo in terms of which type of business model can raise a lot of money?
It's interesting. A lot of people say what industries do the best. What a successful campaign comes down to is not what industry you're in, it's what work and effort you're willing to put in it, and how much your audience actually cares. So we see all kinds of campaigns, from businesses launch to bakeries or food trucks or gadgets get launched. But then we also see, filmmakers and professional musicians like leaving their labels and using IndieGoGo to raise money, like We the Kings or Protest the Hero. They've each raised, hundreds of thousands of dollars to make an album and go direct to their fans. So one thing that a lot of people think that IndieGoGo's about is a larger campaign is better. We don't believe that. At IndieGoGo, everyone has a right to raise money, and every idea, large and small, is equal in our minds. And so if your goal is to just open up a coffee shop in your neighborhood and you just need 20,000 euros, then go for a campaign to raise 20,000 euros. Just because you're not raising 2 million doesn't mean you're not as important. But then we also have the platform so that if you do need that 2 million, we have the infrastructure to support that as well. And so the end goal with IndieGoGo is a world where everyone's funding what matters to them, whether it's a really cool gadget because you love gadgets, or it's your local coffee shop because you love coffee. Like, they're both equally important in your eyes, and IndieGoGo wants to be the place where you can fund whatever matters to you.
Are there any business models that you are trying to promote on your first page, so when people are coming to your website that they see them, and what would be the algorithm behind choosing this kind of business?
So IndieGoGo at our core belief is that everyone deserves a right to raise money. And so because of that, IndieGoGo pioneered the open approach to online funding. So on IndieGoGo, we don't pick and choose projects. It's totally open, no application, no judgment. But we also believe in is a meritocracy. So the ideas that rise to the top that end up on our homepage, for example, or in our newsletters, are ones that earn their way there. And they earn it by doing all the things to engage the community. It's not just a funding popularity contest, but it's being engaging, it's having an audience that's engaged. it's really having a community and a conversation with them, and really kind of bringing everybody together that matters the most. The way we've done this is we've created what we call a gogofactor, which is a merit-based algorithm similar to Google's PageRank algorithm that determines the placement and promotion. So the higher your gogofactor, the higher the chances you'll show up on the homepage. And I like to say I love going to the homepage in the morning to see what's there because I don't even know.
Ah, okay, interesting. Danae, we always try to share some insights or advice to first-time entrepreneurs so they make less errors.
Yeah.
What advice could you share?
Fail fast. Okay. Don't wait for perfect, really. That was probably my biggest lesson I learned is I thought about work through what became IndieGoGo for years. And finally, when I just quit and took an action and went for it, that's when it's within months I found my co-founders. Within a month after that, we had started working on it. Within a year, we had launched the product. So I think I was trying to get perfect in my head about what the exact thing is, and you can't underestimate the value of getting your idea out in the world and getting that quick feedback. Yeah. So don't wait for perfect. In a way, IndieGoGo is a great way to fail fast because a lot of people put their idea up on IndieGoGo, try to raise awareness, try to get engagement, invite people in, and if no one's funding you, that means you probably don't have something that has legs yet and you need to go back and try again. And so a lot of people use us as a testing platform, which I think is great because you can then iterate, fail fast, iterate, come back, and when you are successful at raising money, you know you're really onto something. I would also, my advice to entrepreneurs is, second piece of advice is really be clear with your why, your reason for being. Yeah. So what problem are you solving and why do you care so much about it? I live out in San Francisco and there's all this allure like, oh, entrepreneurs are sexy. Like, I only became an entrepreneur because I wanted to solve a problem and finance wasn't solving it. And so I had to go start a company to solve a problem, which is make access to capital efficient and fair. And I think that's ultimately been one of the reasons that has kept me so motivated for so long and helped persevere is because I'm obsessed with this problem. A lot of entrepreneurs that want to start a company because it's sexy or cool or make a lot of money, I think their chance of failure is higher because there isn't something deeply rooted that is calling them to the work you need to put in every day for years to make it happen because most very rarely are there companies that like start and pop the next day. It's a journey and you have to be in it and you have to be really meaningfully motivated to solve a problem to actually be successful.
Thank you very much, Danae.
Yeah.